Blog Talk Radio.
In a world where the Constitution is under attack, one team of patriots stands up to fight for what's right with courage, strength, truth, and justice. Backed by popular demand and broadcasting live via the internet, this is the world-famous Rage Against the Regime, bringing you hard-hitting, exclusive interviews and covering the topics the mainstream media doesn't dare to touch. Here are your hosts, Bobby Who's the Man and Becky Williams.
Welcome back to Rage Against the Regime. Bobby will not be joining us today. Today's co-host will be Mary Tyndall. She is the regional director for Vocal, or national director for Vocal, which is an organization that fights back against the kidnapping and the injustice coming out of the CPS program across the country. That is, in fact, not what our show is about today, although we may touch on some of those topics concerning those issues. Today is part 2 of Global Tax Revolution. For the new listeners today, I want to kind of recap what we did yesterday. If you haven't heard the show, I invite you to go into the archives of Rage Against the Regime, pull that show up, listen to it, and get it out to your friends and your family. But don't just get the show in their hands. I'm going to ask you people to stop talking about it and be about it. I'm going to ask you to save this nation, to save humanity globally. We have participation in other countries. They're on board. Alex Jones is reporting about taxation. This is an optimal time to get people on board. The Panama Papers that were released showing the tax havens of the stolen assets from the people, the enslavement, the taxation, the fiat wars, the things that this oligarchy has done, the New World Order, to erase the population, to genocide all white-skinned people, Europeans, from existence other than their own bloodlines. This is really war, people. This is not something that we need to ignore. It's not something that is going to go away. This is something that is directly affecting you, whether you believe it or not. You are being used as that driving tool financially through taxation, which is illegal, by the way. We went over those codes in the show yesterday. Tamara shared them. I'm hoping that Tamara will be on today. I haven't spoken to her. She's kind of MIA at the moment. But she delivered those codes to you and much more information about how to look this up. This is legal, folks. What we're doing is a global tax revolt where people are going in for 4 to 6 months. We're going to ask you to file exempt. We're going to ask you to file maximum dependence, whatever the regulations are in your state. You can look them up real quick. We're going to ask you to go into your HR departments at your place of employment. We're going to ask you to change your withholdings on your taxes to exempt or maximum dependence. This will stop the money train. Let me tell you what your tax dollars are paying for. Your tax dollars are paying for the invasion. Your tax dollars are paying for the caliphate. Your tax dollars are providing support and growth to ISIS, who is nothing more than Al-Qaeda and Hamas and Boko Haram and all the others on steroids. They are being trained by the CIA and your Blackwater traders to America that are elite special forces. They are very well versed in covert operations. ISIS did not just pop up and gain their capabilities, their strategies, and their munitions to do what they are doing across the world. We went over yesterday also the media. We have whistleblowers coming out that were journalists that are saying the media is controlled by the CIA, who are the handlers for the governments around the world. They are reporting misinformation and just enough information to instill fear in order for us to be submissive to the government protecting us from the very fear that they create, pardon me, by the very entities that they create, which are the terrorist groups. I'm going to cover a little bit of stuff about Islam. There's a reason why I want to touch on this. I just had a conversation with my 16-year-old godson. It was very disturbing. I'm one of the biggest advocates against Islam there is in this country, and I'm very vocal about it. And those who have listened to me know this. There are no moderate Muslims. Becky, why do you say that? Well, because I've read the Quran, because I've read much of the Hadith, because I'm reading Surah. I understand what these things are that they do in order to establish the caliphate, jihad. I understand the pillars of Islam. There are 7, not 5. I understand the operation of this cult. It's a well-oiled machine. It's a demonic entity. And so the conversation with my godson was, I do not hate all Muslims. They're simply fleeing their land out of fear. That's a lie. Either Muslims are whispering in his ear at school or his teachers, or he's listening to mainstream media, because I've given him every tool and I've given him every evidence that in fact is a lie. These disturbances are being created in the Middle East with purpose to topple governments, to take over resources, and to take over regions. The Muslim nations, there are 5 Muslim nations who are the wealthiest and controlling nations who are part of this oligarch, is they receive none of these people. Why? Because they're foot soldiers for them. They're foot soldiers for Islam. They're being ushered in under a false refugee program of asylum, fleeing a war-torn nation that their own governments are creating with purpose, and so are the rest of the UN nations. But why are they not keeping their people there? Why are they not toppling Islam in their own nations? Well, this is why. Because 1,400 years of demonic, barbaric slaughter of humanity and domination is what Islam is. Muhammad is smiling at you because he's taxing you, the infidel, jizya. And let me tell you how this works. They're to tax the infidel and not be taxed. So our government has been so good to these Muslims, and there's a whole other reason behind that. That's another show. It'd be too long on this one. Under Sharia law, they are not to be taxed. They tax the infidels, so they call it a jizya. The dawah is where they do their own tithe amongst themselves in order to fund the mosque and the imams and the recruitment for Islam. So the jizya, the free money for business, is your tax dollars. They enjoy tax-free business under Sharia, under a privatized bill that your government put in place specifically and only for the Muslims. Nobody else enjoys a tax-free business, period. They're exempt from Obamacare. For those people out there that are listening that are getting slapped with a $2,000 or $3,000 penalty through the mafia organization called the IRS via Obama, who is a sleeper cell for Islam, a usurper in the White House who is funding terrorism with your tax dollars. The soldier that you may know down the street that was killed by ISIS in this so-called war in the Middle East that has been created and trained these people, these demonic entities, by Obama and the CIA and the Blackwater and the UN and NATO. All of this is all tied directly together. Don't believe me, look it up. Do your own homework, pay attention to current events. Don't always believe what you hear on the media, because these whistleblowers are telling us that they were told to lie, and they did. And now they're coming forward and saying, I'm not going to do this anymore. It's destroying humanity. I'm not going to do it, but I am going to tell you, the masses, the truth about media. Pardon me. It's all an agenda. It's all a psyop, a political agenda, and they use repetitive words like radical Islam as if to convince you to believe that Islam has a select few individuals who are terrorists. This is not the case. Please read your Quran. And this, again, the reason I'm having this conversation is I had a very disturbing conversation with a 16-year-old who's at a very pivotal point in his life, who is a prime recruit for them. He's 6'4", he's an athlete, he's black. Okay, big black movement right now. He comes from my family. We're a diverse family, but he's letting the voices of prejudice and lies poison his mind. And he then becomes my enemy, unfortunately, because he will be a danger to especially me, but to the rest of the family, because Islam has no conscience. Islam has no compassion. Islam is dangerous. 1,400 years and current events prove that. I don't need to debate this or prove it to anyone. If you just pay attention to what's going on, even without reading the Quran, you understand what I'm saying. Islam is a theology, and it is a lifestyle for them. They've hidden under the guises of a religion because it gives them rights and political footholds that they would not be afforded if they came in as a political organization other than a religion. They receive the tax exemption, which nobody should receive. I think that has been one of the corrupt tools that the government has used in order to control the churches and to control the masses at the pulpit. Pardon me. We have a lot of preachers out there that are preaching wrongly God's word from the pulpit, and they've turned their churches into empires and Hollywood-style entertainment parks, and they fly around the world in big jets that they own. And they own that because they taxed you a type of jizya. They talk about offerings and tithings, and they've used God's word to make themselves very, very wealthy. And then they enjoy a 501c3 status via the government under a religious organization. So these are things that if you don't know, don't believe me, go look it up. Look it up for yourself, make your own decisions. Just like I told the 16-year-old, you're a man now. You're at an age of acknowledgement. You have the right to make your own choices and decisions, and for every choice that you make in this lifetime, there is a reaction. For every action, there's a reaction. So your choices come with consequences, and they will either be a good consequence or they will be a bad consequence. Use wisdom and discernment when you make these kinds of decisions. And when you expose your family to Muhammad down the street who's smiling at you, taxing the shit out of you, owns that business, is living in a $500,000 home on your dollar, of course he's going to smile at you and be friendly because it's his position to deceive you. Look up deception in the Quran and you'll understand that one. But Islam is a political and an economic and a militant theology. It's all encompassed in one. And everybody has a position in Islam. You have those who are meant to go in and establish law to use our own laws against us in order to gain a foothold, to get precedent set in a court system concerning one Sharia law that they want implemented. Once that's given, that opens the door, the gateway to hell in the judiciary system to give them more and more rights in the courts by establishment of Sharia law in their areas, their regions. We already have no-go zones in America. Can you believe that? Sheriff Parker, the black sheriff who speaks out, he's from Wisconsin, who speaks out against the injustice of the DOJ and Obama's administration, statement that was very disturbing the other day, and he said that someone asked him a question about should we go into Muslim neighborhoods. That should really concern you to begin with. This is America. We're supposed to be a melting pot. What the hell do you mean, Muslim neighborhoods? Well, I'll tell you what it means. It's where they establish a foothold. They're putting refugees, the government, into an area, overloading the area. And if you'll notice, do your homework, you go in and look, and most of these areas, before the rural areas began to be saturated, they took all the capital cities or surrounding cities of strategic economic value. In other words, where your grids are, where your big oil companies are, where your big industries are, and that's where they planted them first. And this is a very well orchestrated plan. And so what they've done is they've created Muslim neighborhoods. buying out entire neighborhoods of 300,000 and 400,000 prime property. They're taking the prime property, if you will, away from the American people, and they're consuming them. They're gobbling up these areas very strategically. And the government is using the BLM to take land away from the American people, which, by the way, is illegal. It's illegal. The government's only supposed to own 10-mile radius in Washington, D.C., and nothing more. But they're taking the land away from the people, and for pennies on the dollar, or even for free, they're giving this money to the Muslims, Islam, the Islamic State, Islamic Nation. It's established here. Pardon me, look it up. It's truth. And then they are, for instance, Sugar Land, Texas. I went over it yesterday for a mere $500,000. That, pardon me, was the jizya, because they wouldn't have that money if they didn't take our tax dollars and give them a free business. They own every store, every corner store. They own, most of them have a gas pump attached. The largest tax you pay is in gasoline taxation, and they're enjoying a tax-free business, so they're getting cut of that. It's so sick, it's not even funny. So we're doing a tax revolution, and we're going to go with a global tax revolution, because your tax dollars are funding every nation that is corrupt. They're harboring that money. They're saying this is a government grant for an EPA program. They're bailing out companies that they create that go belly up, because that money is being stashed over, you're finding out, in the overseas accounts that allow this oligarchy, these greedy bastards, this few in the population of humanity out of 7.9 billion people. They keep saying 7.6, but we've grown tremendously. So I'm just going to go with estimated 7.9 billion people. There's a handful of these greedy bastards, and it's a good old boys club. And it has many entities. It has many fibers. It's like a massive spider web of shit. They hide things under umbrella companies that don't even exist. They hide things in tax shelters. They hide it in overseas, which, by the way, you would go to jail for. I just want you to know. They don't follow the same laws we do. They're executing our people. We're funding all of this, people. We're funding the DHS, who is run by Islam. We're funding the FBI and the CIA. We're funding the training of these terrorists. We're funding the invasion of these terrorists. We're funding the wars. We're funding the very death of the people that are dying at the hands of the terrorists globally. And so we've set up a global revolt. Because if we don't do something now, I guarantee you, come November, when the presidential elections take place, we're going to be in a world of shit. You're going to look at a civil war. We're damned if we do, damned if we don't. They're being very vocal and bold, telling us it's not, we don't pick anybody. We don't vote anyone in. The delegates are going to pick who they want to pick, and then that person, one of those two people are going to be seated as president. They will be handled once they're in that position, whether it's Trump, Cruz, it doesn't matter, whatever. But if Cruz goes against that oligarch, Trump, he will be executed. He'll either be executed or he'll conform. Those are his choices. He's got a lot of assets, so he's got a lot to lose. He's funded his own campaign, but he has a lot to lose. They're going to go after his assets. They're going to go after his family, and they will kill them. We just had a whistleblower, Mr. Nichols, who's on his deathbed. He was an ex-Green Beret. He was one of the Clinton handlers, personal assassins. He's blowing the whistle. He's telling people the truth. And the Clintons aren't the only one that have their own hired assassins. And the ones that they hire are the elite assassins. They've got the money to do it. Why? Because they stole the money from you. So stop funding your own death. Stop funding the poisons in your water, the fluorides that are neurotoxins, the mercury, the lead in your water, in your environment. Stop funding the GMOs that are poisoning you through food that has very little nutritional value but causes cancers and tumors and diseases that shut the body system down. There's big money in pharmaceuticals. The person who's over the FDA was appointed by Obama, the demonic bastard, and Monsanto. He was a CEO for Monsanto, and now he's over our Food and Drug Administration. we raise our chickens here. They're sending them over to China to be processed and sending it back to America for us to eat. How much sense does that make? It makes 0 sense. Over there, the regulations are different than ours. We're having more cases of food poisoning and deaths from salmonella bacteria to strychnine. They're finding friggin' strychnine in your meat sources that are being processed in other countries. Stop funding your own murder. Stop funding the cancers in your family. Stop funding the invasions into the world. Stop funding Islam's caliphate. We're in a world of shit here, people, and if we don't do something, we're going to die. We're dying daily from the diseases and the cancers and the big corporations. And there's more to this than just filing exempt, than just filing maximum dependence. You're going to have to do a little more than that, and it's going to be an inconvenience. Now, how badly do you want to save your country? How badly do you want to stop the invasion? How badly do you want to protect your family from death and from poisoning and cancers? How badly do you want to stop the unconstitutional and injustice acts, the assassination by our own government of our citizens, like Lavoy Finicum, like at Ruby Ridge, Waco, the bikers? I mean, when is this going to stop? Well, it won't stop. Nobody's coming to save you. We have to save ourselves. But we have to come together. We've been an unorganized bunch of whiny-ass complainers online, bitching all day long, and they watch everything we do. That's a PSYOP operation. It's a CIA-controlled PSYOP environment. It's called the Internet, and you get on there and you tell them everything they need to know about how we think, what we're trying to do, and then they screw it up. They infiltrate us. They ban us. They dictate who sees your feeds, you name it. So they keep us at a low, simmering, pissed-off state, and we've got to simply do something more than just complain on Facebook. So filing exempt or maximum dependence is going to break these bastards. It's going to shut everything down because we keep funding our own demise globally. And that's why it has to be a global effort. If only America does it, they're going to shut down the people who are trying to get this done. If the entire globe does it, well, now that's a different story, isn't it? Because they cannot control that kind of a movement. There's no way they can control it. No, there's none without people going after them personally. You can't sue your governments. The powers that be that have been put in place to remove tyranny are a part of the tyranny now, and we have no one who's going to save us, and we can't get organized to do anything. This is simple. Go into your HR departments, file exempt or maximum dependence. The evil things that are going on today are almost unbelievable, and if you didn't know it, you couldn't believe it. And the unfortunate truth is, because of the media, back to that, the general population doesn't understand what you understand because you're awake. Something woke you up. It's God deal. He put on your heart to start looking at things differently. Stop it all. How do we stop the communist run on this country, the stupid millennials, and we all had one in our household, little dumbass free thinkers, so they think, but actually they've been programmed to buck up against you and Christianity and justice, and everything's backwards, and now they call evil good and good evil. They're in our own households, and it's our own fault. We've allowed the school system and the government to corrupt their minds through education and or de-education. I like to call it dumbing them down. We had a gentleman yesterday who was on here, does tutoring. He's out of the medical field, and he said it with his own mouth. His name is John. Go listen to the show. All right, enough about me rambling. I just kind of wanted to give a synopsis of what we're facing, the things that we need to be looking at right now. File exempt. Stop doing business with foreign-owned businesses. Ask if they're an American citizen when you do business. Go get a list from the comptroller in your city. Stop. And then there's going to be a phase 2. then we're really going to hurt you because we're going to ask you to go into the bank on payday. It's going to inconvenience you because we're all used to the convenience of bill pay and electronic deposits and whipping out that plastic card. Part of the way that we are funding these things is through the use of electronic transactions. I know this because I was in banking. So, and do merchant services. So I know what the fees are. So they charge the card holder. Some banks charge you fees on your debit card usage, and then they charge the merchant for having a merchant account to use your credit card or your debit card. We're going to ask you to stop doing those things because we're funding the Panama Papers. We're funding the wars. We're funding our own demise. We're funding poisoning humanity with GMOs and chemicals that are harmful to the body. We're funding chemtrailing. This is how ignorant we are as people. We're allowing a bunch of demonic Luciferian good old boy club people to act as God and to mock us and laugh at us and to make us sick so that they can live the best of worlds. Their kids don't go to school with us. They don't live in our neighborhoods. They're not exposed to the dangers they're exposing you to, and they think this shit's funny. Well, this shit isn't funny anymore. It's time to stop it. No more deaths, no more pedophilia, no more rape from outsiders. It's going to continue to happen with Americans, but we can deal with those people. But when we have an influx like we have, we simply don't have the manpower, and even if we did, that manpower now is being controlled federally under an ICLEI program, which is a UN management program for sustainability in your own city. So your police officers are not working on a constitution of the United States or your state. They're working under the UN Constitution, which says you don't have any rights. They are the global police for you. And this is just how bad it is. Don't believe me, look it up. We're going to ask you to stop the transaction, stop the bill pay, and when you go into the banks, ask for your money in coins. Why precious metals? Because paper is worthless. And I'm going to go into an article here in a minute. It's just going to scare the shit out of you, and it's going to prove to you that paper is worthless and that we are collapsing, and it's a global collapse. So we're just going to go ahead and take all the wealth away from these people, turn it into ashes, take their power away from them. We're going to shut down their ability to usher in the foot soldiers for the caliphate, to open up borders. We're going to crumble the TPP. We're going to crash the Agenda 21. We're going to decimate the EPA bullshit program that they use as a control tool, the whole global warming issue. And we're going to remove the ability to continue to brainwash our children through the colleges on communism and recruit them for Islam and the Black Power movement, who is executing cops and calling for the genocide of the whites, which is being funded by the DOJ, which is your tax dollars. This is all. It all goes back to the money. Follow the money. Anyway, enough of me. I'm Becky Williams, a true stinger on Rage, and it's my pleasure to come to you today and to give you the truth about the things that are going on, and then to invite you to prove me wrong. I'm just going to say, if you don't believe me, check it out for yourself. I've got some people holding on the line. It looks like Tamara showed up. Let me bring her on. Tamara, how you doing,
Hi.
sis?
I crashed and burned earlier today. I was up till dark 30.
Oh, dang, I know you were, girl. I figured you were snoozing. We don't have a bunch of people on the line, and I populated the hell out of this, so I'm assuming that the PSYOPs have decided to limit people's ability to get in, but it does show that we have some listeners. So
good.
The call-in number is 929-477-3565. Please call in if you're listening in on Skype or you're listening to the show on the Internet. Please call in with your questions, concerns. Go ahead, Tamara. I'm going to give it over to you, and I'm going to turn it over to you and Mary for just a moment, and I'm going to go find out what's going on my board.
Okay. We're not asking anybody to do anything that's illegal. We're not asking anything that is going to get you thrown in jail. We're simply asking you to walk down the hall to your HR office at your place of employment and tell them that you just need to change your W-4 and change it to exempt status. They can't tell you no. You know, that's something people need to quit looking at these Washington elite as our leaders. They are not leaders. We don't need to be led. We are not a bunch of cattle. We elected them as representatives, and they are supposed to represent our wishes and our wants, and they don't. And the only way that we're going to stop them is to defund this. Look at the Panama Papers that are just getting leaked. These people have been ripping us off the whole time they've been sitting up there in Congress. You know it. I know it. Okay? There should have been term limits put on them as well. But these people have colluded against the American public, against the American people. They have dragged foreign entities into this. They have sold pieces of your country to other countries. All that public land that the BLM keeps screaming about, they have to take that over because we don't know how to manage it and we don't know how to take care of it. They have sold American property to foreign businesses for profit and then took that money and hid it. That's your money. Hell, that's your property. We have got to do something to put these people in check and make them understand that we're not going to take this anymore. We don't have to. People, you don't have to take this. I don't know why the people in the world today are sitting back and letting themselves be ran over. You do not have to take this. It's not in God's plan for you to take this. Hey, Mary, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing well. Just listening to you. Tell it, girl.
I get so irritated, so agitated. You know,
it's
watching
right.
people. I'm sure you see it.
Oh, yeah. Well, certainly. I think we're like I keep going back to. I think people are just really scared, and I think that the they people, whoever they are in whatever areas they're doing, whatever we could say, New World Order or whatever, they know we're scared. Not me personally, but they know people are scared, so they feed off that fear then to keep us down. And what I do, other than going into prayer to God, I also look at the history of our country. Man, you know, they were scared. That fight in the Civil War, the Revolutionary War, all that, they were scared to death. But they did it because they knew they had to do it. And this is a nonviolent way of making our point.
Sure. Well, it's about the best nonviolent way that you just defund them. You take their money away. That's what they're playing with. That's what they're ruining our lives with. Is our own money. So you take that away.
Yeah, hit them in the pocket. I had someone tell me one time, I don't care what you're doing, hit them in the pocket. You'll get their attention. That seems to work in the I call the child abuse industry because it is one. But yeah, it's a personal decision. Do you let someone walk on you or not? People treat you the way you allow them to treat you, and it's just true. And if there's any way you can do, Mr. and Mrs. America can do one thing. Is go ahead and change that tax form to where you know where your money's going, because once they get your money, they're spending it on stuff you wouldn't even approve of.
Right, and you change that tax form, and that's your money again. Whoa.
Yep, that's right.
Well, when you go into the bank, the reason we're going into the bank to take our money out, one, it's going to collapse soon. Two, they're already garnishing people's money. The IRS goes in and gets your money. The banks are taking your money and calling it a lost investment. Nothing you can do about it, to the tune of 50. I've heard 50,000. I've heard 15,000. People have lost money in their banks. In 2008, we went over this yesterday. The bank said when your money hits that bank, it does not belong to you. It belongs to the bank. You do not have ownership on it as a depositor. So if it comes up missing, you have no recourse. So what you do is on payday, when you get paid, you go in, you tell them you want coins, silver dollars. Go in and tell them, listen, I need to pull everything out but $5. I need the cash today, and that's all you need to say. And get your money out. Pull your money out. Stop using your credit card. Number one, they track everything you do on your debit and credit card. They know what you're purchasing. If you're going down to buy supplies or a gun or ammunition, all that shit is being tracked when you pay with your card. You take the power and control away from them when you pay with cash. They don't know where you're spending your money or what you're doing. And we don't want them to know what we're doing with our money. It's none of their damn business, as long as we're not funding terrorism.
Right.
But as long as they're taking your money to fund terrorism, they think it's none of your damn business. Well, get your business back. Okay? Take that power away from them. That's what we're asking you to do. It's perfectly legal. We're not going to get you in trouble. We're not going to do anything that's going to cause any problems for anybody. We're asking you to defund the criminalization that you are being forced to pay for. Your own demise, the poisons, the things. Tamara, what was it? You said we were talking about this last night. We want to make sure we inform the people of what? We want to make sure that
we know that there's going to be a little bit of backlash from the government, because we know that the first thing they do when they run out of money is they start cutting things like Social Security. I want to make sure that everybody that is on board with us on this understands that those people are going to be hit. They're going to be upset, and they may not get a check that month. But this is where it comes into showing how much of an American you are. We went 100 years or more with funding our own charities, funding our own roads, funding our own schools. So what I'm asking you to do is to watch those that you know that are on disability or on Social Security, and if you see them hurting, please step up. Please step up, because they're going to be just as upset about losing their check as we are about funding terrorism. But it's gonna.
Tamara, they're going to be shocked. I don't mean to cut you off, sis. I'm sorry, but I need to say this or I'll forget it. They're going to be shocked. You people will be shocked at how much money you will have at the end of the month after you pay your bills, and the fact that you're not buying for the big corporations, you're not buying from the mom and pops that are owned by foreign entities, you're not using the Muslim-run taxi cab services, you're calling Uber and you're saying, I want you to send an American to pick me up. Do not send a foreign individual in your Uber group to pick me up. I only fund American businesses, or Americans are the ones who will be the recipient of your money. When you stop that habit of running down to Pancho Villa's taqueria, and it's owned by a wetback, and I say that because they're probably here illegally, and Tamara even testified to some of that yesterday. When we stop doing those things and giving them our money and giving them that free house for a year, and giving them that EBT card that's got $1,000 on it because they have an average family unit of 7 to 9. When we stop paying for their special car programs where they don't go under the same scrutiny we do, and their down payments being covered by your tax dollars, those are things that you're not afforded in this country. So why should you afford it for someone else, especially those who have come to take the jobs away from Americans, who have taken the prosperity out of the mouths of your babies? Don't do it anymore. This should all piss you off beyond belief. Don't believe us, look it up, but you're going to have so much money at the end of the month that taking care of your loved one who's on Social Security and making sure they have food and medication, or taking care of that disabled person in your family, it's not going to be an issue. It'll be a non-issue because it'll be a collective effort from probably not one person. Most families have 2 or 3 people in the family who will be able to contribute to taking care of those people. And if you have somebody who didn't have kids, that lives next door or down the street, somebody you know of, then as a community you come together and you make sure that they don't go hungry. You make sure their needs are met. We do what we used to do before Social Security was ever invented. We do what we used to do before we were buying from the big corporations and foreign-owned businesses. We trade with one another. We trade with American-owned businesses, American-made products. If it says made in China, don't buy it. Don't buy it.
Quit
Quit
going to Walmart.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Quit going to Walmart because just about everything in there is made in China. You know, this crud that Walmart pulled a few years back about, everything's made in the USA. They did that. If you will notice, they did that right when our soldiers started coming back from Desert Storm. And they got everybody all pumped up about, oh, my God, look, Walmart only sells American. And then they quietly started replacing everything on the shelves with made in China, made in Taiwan. Okay? You cannot keep funding these people and keep yourselves alive. People, you're going to have to make a choice. You're going to have to make a choice to stand up and say enough is enough. We do not have to follow these people.
Tamara, I've got Mary to pull up the Panama Papers. For those of you who don't know what the Panama Papers are, I asked Mary to look it up, and I'm going to let Tamara and I'm going to let Mary go over the Panama Papers and the issues that we're facing and the things that are coming to the forefront for the knowledge of the people concerning the Panama Papers. And this should be another reason that pisses you off more than enough to get on board, to not only do this, but to take action, to put flyers on cars in front of the tax places that people are going to file their taxes, to let them know that there is a solution and this is a legal revolution and that they can change their dependence on their tax withholdings to exempt or maximum so that we can stop all of this. So I'm going to let you guys go over the Panama Papers, take the lead. Go ahead, Tamara and Mary.
Well, I don't know. I've just been doing a little research. Tamara, why don't you cover what you know, and if I may, I'll just pop in and give a few facts if you want to know them or want me to speak.
I've been trying to follow as much as I can on it.
Okay.
All I'm not, I've been asleep half the day today. I crashed and burned. You probably understand more about it than I do because there's breaking news every day about it.
Yeah, there really is.
I do know that all of they're trying to get by with this, talking about, it's just tax shelters. People here in America get in trouble for that crap.
Right.
If we were to take our collective monies like that and ship them to a foreign bank, we would be in a lot of trouble. So go ahead, Mary. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Of course, I went to say something and my tablet did something funny. I'm going to give a little background so people can get an idea of what it's about, and then I guess we can bring it up to date to what's going on now with it.
Okay.
Okay. The Panama Papers are a leaked set of 11.5 million confidential documents that provide detailed information about more than 214,000 offshore companies listed by the Panamanian corporate service provider. I'm going to try to pronounce this properly. Sorry. Mossack Fonseca. I don't even know. Mossack, capital Fonseca. So however I pronounced it and messed it up. Okay, now it includes the identities of shareholders and directors of companies. The documents show how wealthy individuals are, including public officials. They hide their money from public scrutiny. The papers identify current government leaders from 5 countries of Argentina, Iceland, Saudi Arabia, Ukraine, and United Arab Emirates, as well as government officials close to relatives, close associates, and various heads of government, and more than 40 other countries, including Brazil, China, France, India, Malaysia, Mexico, Pakistan, Peru, Romania, Russia, South Africa, Spain, Syria, and the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom was singled out in the media for being at the heart of the super rich tax avoidance network. And let's see, while no formal definition exists of the offshore financial centers, basically called tax havens, are typically defined as jurisdictions whose banking industry. Number one, they primarily provide services to people or businesses that are not resident. They do not require companies to disclose information and have low tax regimes. And, so I'm still learning about this, too. There's a lot to it. And as soon as I can find where I was here, there was like 106 reporters and I think 76 news organizations. I don't even want to mess that up. But that went in and started, and as a matter of fact, Edward Snowden came out and said that it's the largest data dump on this kind of thing that has ever been out. Huge, massive. So there's a whole lot to it, and like I said, I wasn't sure what was much about it, so I'm still learning as well.
You have to understand that all of that wealth that they've hidden is wealth that has come from, that's blood money. It's come from the suicides and murders of individuals. It's come from the sweat of your brow. Listen, time is the most precious commodity we have. Time.
Yeah.
Time is the only thing that we cannot get back in this life. Period. That's it. Time. Time is it. And you can't get back a dead loved one. So here's what we're looking at. The time that you spend slaving away at your job to pay the man to have the home that's worth $97,000 that the banksters have raped you on through a 30-year mortgage with interest rates that at the end of the day when you pay it off, it's not really paid off. You're still paying property taxes on it. Once you secure that property, it is a piece of property that you're going to wind up paying $400,000 or $500,000 for. At the end of the 30-year note, you're going to continue to pay taxes on that property because you don't own that property that it actually sits on. Although the bill of sale says that they've sold you a quarter of an acre with a house on it, that house belongs to your state. It belongs to the city. It belongs to the bank. If you don't, belongs to the IRS. If you don't pay your property taxes, they auction your property off to the next fool who doesn't understand legalese in a contractual agreement that you sign where you sign your rights away as the sole owner or proprietor of that property. This is a fact. I wish Jim was on the show today. He could explain it better. But this is how they get you, and this is the blood money that they take from you, the sweat equity, the time away from your family, the time that ticks off of the years off of your life, where you're out busting your ass trying to be a responsible human being, and all the time on your cell phone bill you've got $18 paying for some thug who's selling dope on the street corner that has an Obama phone, but simply because they're black.
Okay.
Or
I did want to.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did want to interject the information I want to straighten out here. This information is documented actions going back to the 1970s. And it eventually has totaled out to be 2.6 terabytes of data. And the given scale of this elite, okay, the newspapers enlisted the help of the U.S.-based International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, the ICIJ, and they distributed the documents of the investigation, and the analysis was from some 400 journalists and 177 media organizations and 76 countries. So I just wanted to make sure I got that straight. But that's a lot of information going back to the 1970s. I guess everybody is squirming a little bit who did something wrong.
Well, you see how the ICIJ has come together, and they have a number of organizations or journalists who have come together to work effectively, organize themselves in a fashion that they could compile all of this information and then get this report out and actually see some action that is going to be taken by the people. Iceland would be a good example. Their leader stepped down because he's in the middle of all of this tax haven shit. And if you folks have been following what's gone on in the last 4 or 5 years, Iceland broke away from the banking cartel and the corruption of the banking system for these very reasons. And the person who was sitting in a leadership position over Iceland was, again, one of those corrupt criminals that were taken away from the people, from a country that went belly up, broke away from the monetary system that has us in a stranglehold across the globe, that has given them power for centuries to kill, steal, and destroy, and to enslave man. We have to break away from that straw man mentality, that enslavement mentality. It's not okay. It's not okay. Your God-given right says that it's not okay. Forget the document. Let's just go with the God-given right, your Creator's right that He gave you as a human being. So we have to break away from this. We have to stop it. The only way that we can, listen, it's too big to do it any other way. We're not going to win a civil war. There's too much technology, and we'll be fighting NATO. We'll be fighting our own military. They have equipment. They have technology that we don't have. They have bioweapons that we don't have. They can wipe us out in an instant. It won't be a 6-month war, a 3-year war. It'll be in a minute war. They don't care about us. They have no compassion for us. We are a digit to them. We are a way for them to live the way that they live and to control all things because they think themselves gods. And we have to take that power away from them. Well, how can we do that? We can't go in and just start executing people because that's not who we are as a godly people. We're trying to avoid that, right? As following God's law, not man's law. You got to get away from man's law because it's corrupt. You have to follow the law at the same time, but at the same time, you cannot deal with a lawless organization who writes law, who subjugates law, and think that you can bring them down to a level playing field through the courts. It's not going to happen. We can't sue our government. Nobody will remove them. We won't collectively stand up and exercise our Second Amendment right for what it was truly given to us for, which is to remove tyranny. Got a bunch of spineless little jellyfish out there running their mouth on a keyboard, but they don't have any intention of getting outside of their comfort zone. We're asking people to just step a little bit outside your comfort zone. We're not asking you to show up at the Capitol. We're not asking you to shoot weapons with us. We're not asking you to go buy an AK-47 and drop $500, $800, $1,000, $1,500, or whatever it is for the weapon of your choice. We're not asking you to do those things. We're not saying get prepared. I'm not telling you to go down and buy a bunch of beans and rice, although you better. Because when we do this to them, when we collapse them, you will need those items. But what we're saying is we're going to force them into a situation where they're going to have to bend for us. They're going to have to either speak up and speak to us and stop their bullshit, or we're going to break them. They'll implode. They'll start taking each other out. We won't have to worry about them because we've removed all of their power and we've thwarted their plans on humanity. They're not going to be able to do shit but for that power position and trying to find a way, because now the jig's up and the population knows they're going to have to try to find a way to gain control, and they're not going to. It'll be an impossibility. This handful of evil, demonic bastards will be destroyed by it. So we have to do what we have to do. But either way, come November, we're going to have a war on our hands. If we don't do something now, we've got to win this.
I'm sorry, there's all kinds of movements in Alex Jones and along with the gentleman who's I can't think of his name right now, who's working with Donald Trump. They've got a whole movement of people going to Columbus. They're at hotels, houses, and aren't the people you had on the show the other night, the Paul Revere group, aren't they going to? Or are they going to Washington? There's something going on in Washington, too.
I don't know. I stay away from the Paul Revere group because I have my own ideas about how Mr. Carter was killed, and I know for a fact that Estes, who is in that group, is not a good man, and he'd turn you over to the feds in a heartbeat. He's not a true patriot. So I stay away from Paul Revere. I gave them.
Okay.
I gave them an opportunity to allow me to be their spokesperson and their media promotion, and I stepped away from that because some very bad things happened there, and we'll go over that show one day. But I'm staying away from them. We've been so infiltrated, people. Y'all got to be careful who you're following. I'm not asking you to follow anybody right now. You know what I'm asking you to do? I'm asking you to be a free thinker. I'm not asking you to join a militia. I'm not asking you to do anything but do what is your legal right, which is to get the most out of your paycheck and to file exempt. And at the end of the day, either this is going to work or it won't work. If we have a global effort for you guys to not just take action doing these things, but to do all of these things, and then it's going to take your effort to share this and impart this with others and encourage them to do the same thing with the assurance that they're not stepping outside of law. And you can do that by looking up your tax codes in your city or your state, rather, and see what you need to file when you go into the HR department. It's just going to take you about 5 minutes of your time to do that. Go into your HR department when you go to work in the morning. Say, hey, I need to change my withholding status. Go in there and change it to benefit you, and then go to the bank on payday and pull your damn money out and stop doing business. So what? It's convenient to stop at Muhammad's store because the racetrack might be 2 miles away from your house and between you and work. Don't let your gas tank get down to the point that you can't make it 2 miles to do business with an American-owned gas station.
That's part of the war.
Coffee. Yeah, don't stop.
That's part of this peaceful war.
Yes.
Right now, and also here, if I may interject, I was looking up here, and there's something called AmericaWorking.com, and it's products made in the USA, a directory for all of them. So if you want to buy it in the USA,
say that again. Repeat it. Repeat it to them.
It's called AmericansWorking.com. AmericansWorking.com. And it has it's a directory for all the products made in USA. And they've got over 600 toys. There's all kinds of stuff, and different sites for made in America products. So you can buy American. You may spend a little more, but you're saving our country.
I would much rather spend a little more.
Well,
I would most definitely spend a little more. Here's something that people need to look at, and it doesn't matter what your belief system is. Okay, your spiritual belief system, Christianity, Buddhism, I don't care. But when you say one thing but do another, it causes an imbalance inside your own mind, inside your own spirit. It causes an imbalance. So if you're one of those people that loves to sit behind the keyboard and I'm a patriot, I'm true blue, I change my picture to the flag, you're only doing harm to yourself, because you're the type of people that will turn around and you will go shop at Abdul's Market, or you will go buy gas from the Saudi down the street. Stop it. Make yourself feel better. Do something for your country. Do something for your neighbor. Do something for yourself. Buy American. Be American. That's what being a patriot is. Be American. Support your fellow American.
100%, because if you don't, we're going to lose a nation. The greatest nation God ever created or allowed to be created is being lost, people.
Well, we have to get moving on it, because they're really coming after people who are speaking out. They went after the person who produced the film about Obama. They have filed charges against him.
You're talking about Dinesh?
Sorry?
Dinesh D'Souza?
Dinesh? Yeah, D'Souza.
No, I'm not. It's somebody else who put out a film about Obama, and they have filed criminal charges against him. So this is another one.
We got to do what we got to do.
Yeah, this is another one. So anybody who's putting stuff out there, they're coming. So that doesn't mean stop. I mean, double it up, triple it up, get the information, because eventually I think they're just going to cut us all off, and it's going to be back to the snail mail thing, you know.
Well, you know, it probably would not, it wouldn't hurt us to hurt Zuckerberg either, all our Facebook warriors.
I
it is
get on there. Yeah.
It's a wonderful way to communicate. It's you know, and pass information. That's the biggest thing, the passing of the information. Becky and I have found things late at night, early in the morning, middle of the day, that just send us off on these sideways tracks, and we found a lot, and you don't even think about it. But you know, people, we're not meant to live under somebody's thumb. If we were meant to live under somebody's thumb, God wouldn't have given us free will, okay? And we have free will. Now, you are willingly playing the PC game. I have to be nice. I can't speak my mind. I can't do this. I can't do that because they might arrest me. Well, you know, if you're afraid of talking and getting arrested, you're not the warrior we're looking for. If you're afraid of going and changing your W-4 and that scares you, you're really not the warrior we're looking for. You have got to make up your mind that you simply are not going to take this anymore. That you don't care what the ramifications can be. That you're not going to take it anymore. We don't have to. Do you understand, people? We don't have to take this. There is no law that says that we have to sit back and be slapped around like a couple of little 2-year-olds and then go put in the corner for our misbehavior. That's my money. That is my capital. That's my White House that piece of garbage is living in. You know, all these governors, all your governors that are living in the state capital, that's your money, honey. That is your money. That is your building. Those state capitals, those are your buildings. Screw this, you can't come in here and protest. Those are your buildings. You paid for them. Your fathers paid for them. Your mothers paid for them. You own them. Those people are responsible to you, not the other way around. Get it through your heads, people. You are not responsible to those elected individuals. They are responsible to you. And what do we do with people that don't live up to their responsibilities? We get rid of them. We fire them. We push them out of business. That's what we're asking you to do.
Yeah, I'm confused about why Congress is letting a lot of this going on here. I mean, too much of it going on. I mean, isn't the sergeant at arms allowed to go in and arrest the president or any of these people? Isn't that his job? Who is he? Why aren't we calling his office? Why aren't we emailing him saying, "Hey, do you see he's doing this? Do you see what's happening here?" I mean, maybe he should be fired.
There was a group probably about 2 years ago that actually started making phone calls to his office and sending letters, and even a couple of legal briefs, I believe, got sent laying out how Obama has been treasonous and impeachable offenses, and nothing. No response, nothing. Just basically a
well, you're not going to have any. You're not going to have any because we don't control what he does anymore. He is a CIA operative, sleeper cell, for the House of Saudi. If you people will go back and look, the listeners that are listening, if you'll go back and look, just look at the OPEC deal. I need you to just really look at the OPEC. A lot of things started happening at the end of the Vietnam War and after the end of World War II concerning communism and the installation of the Islamic State in America. But the 70s, the early 70s are very significant to everything that we're facing right now. That is the honest to God truth. Look it up. Nothing's going to be done about Obama if we don't do it. And obviously we aren't going to do anything but allow people to be murdered, like the police, the officers that are being executed at the hands of a demonic deity that sits in the White House, if you will, the Messiah Obama, who is the Lord and Master of the majority of the black population, who thinks he's king of the throne, who's paying and funding the demise of human life. They're funding this execution of police officers, or the foreign invaders who are killing us at an alarming rate from other nations, Guatemala, El Salvador, Mexico, just to name a few. We're in trouble, people. And just because it hasn't been your loved one yet doesn't mean it won't be. It's just not time yet. But it will happen every day. It will happen to another American family every day, right as we speak. Something horrific is happening to an American family at the hands of a foreign invader. Are you going to continue to allow these things to happen until it is your child, or it is your wife, or you yourself, or your brother, your sister, your niece, your nephew, your grandbaby, your mom, your dad, your aunt, your uncle? I mean, what are we waiting for? What are you waiting for? We're not going to rise up and use the Second Amendment right to go into Washington and to drag them out and try them for treason. Then this is what we have to do. We have to do a nonviolent, legal and lawful exemption and do a tax revolt. We have to do it. It has to be done. And it needs to be a collective effort. We cannot do these things by ourselves. We need you to spread the word. We need you to make it grow. We need you to participate, to refrain from your habits, like trading with Muhammad.
Well, you're going to have so much better health and better finances.
Oh yeah.
Because you're going to straighten out your own internal conflict with your belief system and what you're doing, and then all the money that you're going to be saving, really, instead of waiting for that tax return at the end of the year. And that's perfectly legal as well. People do it all the time. They know that they're going to be one of those families that is not going to owe or is going to get money back at the end of the year. And I personally have done this. Why should I have all this money taken out just to have it sitting there and let the government play with it and invest it and use it for another year when all I have to do is simply change that W-4? And then all that money goes right back into my pocket.
Chandler.
Yes, ma'am.
Chandler. Tell the folks what you were telling me yesterday about how much we pay in taxes as opposed to housing, food, so on and so forth. Alex Jones covered that. Was that your source yesterday?
It was just an article I happened to run across online. We actually pay it's like 50% of what we pay or what we earn every year actually goes towards taxes. Let me grab it out of Clipper real quick and I'll open it back up. Oh, by the way, we do have a Facebook page open now. We haven't got a whole lot on there yet, the information we're looking for, but it's Global Tax Revolution, and the tax is all in caps. Should be pretty easy to find us.
Fantastic. Up and running, folks. We're going to work on a website as well. We've got a T-shirt campaign, a bumper sticker campaign that's going to help you better advertise the global tax revolt, and those will be in production here pretty quick.
Is it going to have that picture on it you sent me?
Absolutely. That's going to be our brand, if you will.
That's a powerful picture.
You like that?
Sure did.
It is a very powerful picture.
I picked that out yesterday and went ahead and created it. That's going to be on our T-shirts. We'll come up with some other designs for the tax revolt with some catchy little phrase words on there that'll get people to ask you what your shirt means. But we're going to ask you to take action, to do these things that we're asking you to do. For people who have a printer at home, we're going to create a template where you can print out 50, 25, 50, 40, whatever the number may be that you feel like you can handle with your printer. And we're going to ask you to take that template. We're going to ask you to print these papers out and go put them when you're at the grocery store. Put them on car windshields. When you're at wherever it is that you shop. And we're hoping that it's not going to be a foreign-owned business or a Walmart. But we certainly want you to still put those papers on the cars at Walmart. Hand them out at the Liberty Tax or whatever, where people in your neighborhood are going to file their taxes, H&R Block stores. Go outside. Those are perfect people. They're pissed off by the time they get out of there. They've been charged an arm and a leg to file their taxes. Used to be $50, used to be free. Now it's like $400, $500, $600, $700. These tax companies are charging you, getting right there on top of what you're getting raped with by the IRS and this oligarchy. Go hand it out to those people coming out of those offices. I mean, take a little time. Damn, do something. Be about it. Don't just keep sitting around and complaining and complaining. You are the defining factor of your own destiny. You're in charge of it. We're giving you the tools. We're giving you the direction. Go ahead.
Yeah, and your children. I'm sorry to interject this, but I really need to. Did you know that the government schools are all under the UN now?
Yes.
That's right. People need to know that. And
except the private schools that these politicians' kids go to.
Right, right.
Well, and another disturbing... Go ahead.
No, I said, and what do you think they're going to do with their children? All these politicians that are following along, they're going to get their head chopped off, too, in the end.
Here's the deal.
Hopefully.
We have one of the largest charter school organizations in this country today is owned, operated, and every one of them that are being put up by a very wealthy Muslim who is putting Muslim teachers in there, charging you and your children a fee to attend that school to be indoctrinated into Islam. I'm telling you the honest to God's truth.
Yeah, it's called the Sunshine School or something.
Yeah.
There a couple of them are here in Texas. It's called the Sunshine School or something like that. You need to. That's something else, people. You're sticking your kids in daycare and charter schools and stuff. Find out who owns this. Don't just go in and talk to the principal and say, "Oh, well, the principal's white." It doesn't matter. Find out who owns the charter schools, please.
And find out engage the principal and the vice principal and even your children's teacher in conversations. You can fill them out with indirect questions. You can fill them out and get a pretty good idea of what kind of indoctrination they're going to be doing on your children. At some point, they're going to have a liberal pattern to speech or a communistic, socialistic, or an Islamic speech pattern, or they'll support or make comments about how many of the underprivileged are in their school. Underprivileged is a go word or a key word for embracing invasion or embracing Islamic behavior. And those are the kids that your kids are sitting next to. They're the ones who have an influence on your children. these teachers and these other kids have more influence on the development of the character of your children than you do. They spend more time with them. You get home, you're busy, you've been out work all day. Hey, did you do your homework? Go get it done. You're not involved in helping them get their homework done or finding out what they're learning. You don't know what the content of the books are that they're bringing home. And then the other thing, we all have seen it done. The kids get on their violent video games. They get on their iPhones and sext each other and pull up nasty-ass videos, and they're listening to filthy lyrics on the music channel, and you're setting them in front of Adult Swim on the Cartoon Network that you may not even be aware of. The things that they're being brainwashed with and exposed to are with purpose. It's by this Luciferian oligarchy that controls music, that controls media, that controls Hollywood, that controls what your children are being exposed to and what you're being exposed to. Get a grip on it, people. Get a grip on it.
Okay, here you go.
Infighting with the millennials. Go ahead.
Let's see, just to give you a quick show of how your government's really screwing you on your taxes. In federal fiscal year 2014, now that's October 1st, 2013 to September 30th, 2014, okay? The federal government, now this is just the federal government, collected $3 trillion in revenues, which was 46% individual income tax, 34% Social Security tax, 11% corporate tax. Now, do you see where that doesn't sound right? 46% individual income tax is where 46% of that $3 trillion in revenues came directly out of your pocket. Directly out of your pocket. But was only tagged for 11%.
Imagine
of that $30 trillion.
Who, by the way, are the only ones who are supposed to be taxed? Am I correct?
The federal government. If you work for it's forts, ports, and 10 square miles, darling. If you are a federal government employee, or you are a military employee, or you live inside the 10 square miles of D.C., you are the only ones that are supposed to be paying taxes according to our own tax code.
Now, this is how bad it is, though. What they've done is they've incorporated federal employees, and they call them lobbyists, for the big corporations to pay the underhanded, dirty, dastardly criminal deeds of our Congress and our government agencies to do what benefits the corporation.
Yeah, I also wanted to say that a lot of our Christian churches are owned by Muslims, and one of the ways you can tell is they're taking the crosses out, and it's run more like a business. So here's another thing. Ask who owns your church.
Yeah. Vet your church. Vet your church. Find out who's running your church.
Well, the one thing Monica told me, she's Roman Catholic. She said the churches that she was gone into in Washington, D.C. and around that area, they've taken out the holy water and the crosses.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're kidding. No, they have taken them out. I wonder why.
We have some people with their hands up. Can you guys, we've got some people with their hands up.
All right.
If I can get back to my blog talk
all right,
board.
Take care.
Hold on just a second. Y'all go ahead. I'm pulling my board back up. Unfortunately, it went down. I do not know why.
Well, that's something I wanted to bring up real quick while we're sitting here, please. I am Catholic, okay? And I love my faith. But I do not love what they are doing to us. That second basket that's going around in collection every Sunday, that's not going for the poor people over there in Africa like you think it is. We're not helping those people over there. That money stays right here in the United States of America, and it is being funded. It is being used to fund the influx of these invading Muslims
Jesus Christ.
People. Catholics, Methodists, Baptists, you are all paying for your own beheading. You are all paying for your own death. You are funding the importation of your killers. You are funding their livelihood, their living expenses, until they decide to lop your head off. Quit funding them. Go to your pastors. Go to your priests. I don't care. And tell them, we are not funding this anymore. If this is where my money is going, it's not happening. Because let me tell you something. Catholic Charities is one of the worst. Catholic Charities of America is one of the worst. And I'm Catholic. And I'm here to tell you they don't give a flying flip about you. You are nothing more than money to them, just like you are to the United States government. They ask you to put money in that second collection on Sundays, and they're getting millions, if not billions, of dollars every year on top of your money to resettle your killers right here in your neighborhood. Sorry.
No.
No,
you're
right.
good.
And there's something else that I thought was interesting is I think it was back the first part of the administration when Obama came in, that when he went to Notre Dame to give a speech, he made them cover up Jesus.
Yeah. He has, every time he has the Muslim Brotherhood in the White House, he has them take down the American flags.
What?
Yes.
What? Really? Oh, my God.
Every time he has those, and I'm going to say it, y'all, I'm sorry, but I got to say it today. Every time he has those bastards up in my house, he has the American flags removed because it offends them.
Yeah, I don't think this is our country anymore.
That's what we have to stand up. If you people don't want to stand up and go out in your full battle rattle, I fully understand that, okay? But this is the one way that we can hit them where they need to be hit, and that's in the pocketbook. You know, going out and getting all your battle gear on and going out and protesting, I see what you think you're doing, okay? But you're not doing anything except making the problem worse. Because you're playing right into the hands of the media. And you're letting them portray you exactly as they want to. And it's making all the rest of us look like a bunch of idiots.
And they'll add to it and chop it out in the whole 9 yards. That Roger Stone, when I was talking about, that works with Trump, and they've gone ahead and chopped up what he had to say, and now it sounds like he's calling for riots in Cleveland, which he never did. But CNN's reporting that, of course, good old MSNBC. No.
I finally got my board back up, ladies. Apparently the government doesn't like my show, so when I went to let the area code 806, I've opened up your microphone. You're on live. I apologize for taking so long to get to you. They zeroed out my internet. So my board disappeared, and then they said, I'm sorry. Oops, something went wrong, reload. Oops, close all windows. Oops, you're incognito. What the hell is incognito? I've never done that before, so it did it all by itself. So 806, your line is open. Who have we got on area code 806?
I'd rather leave my name out of it if you don't mind.
I don't mind at all, brother.
All right. Well, first, I mean, the question that I have is mainly about this tax revolution thing. I'm really intrigued about that, but I want to make a comment as to something that was said just a couple of minutes ago. Bear with me. I'm not used to being on air with like hundreds of people listening, so bear with me if I stutter, okay?
You've probably got about 46 countries listening to you right now, brother. Go ahead. Say your piece.
Hey, pressure's on. I want to make a comment about something that was said just about a minute and a half ago about we don't think that this is our country anymore, and I have to honestly say that I disagree. This is our country, and by God, it's time to fucking take it back. And I'm sorry if I'm not supposed to say foul language on air or anything like that, but it pisses me off. I mean, it really pisses me the fuck off that we got people in our country saying, well, you know, we're just not going to vote because of this reason or that reason, or, well, there's nothing we can do about it. And I want to send a shout-out and a message to all my brothers and sisters out there, and they'll know exactly who they are. It's time to suck it up and work up. This is our country, and damn it, it's time to take it the fuck back.
Thank
Amen.
you. All right.
Brother. We appreciate that. Man, I'm going to tell you, I appreciate the hell out of that myself. I've been doing this.
Oh, absolutely, no problem. I'll say it 100 more times. I'll say it in front of God and everybody 100 more times after that. It really doesn't matter who gets offended, because I don't care if you're Christian, Muslim, or whatever. This is our country, and it's time to go back. You know, it's time to go back to the way things were. It's time to grab ourselves by the balls or whatever you have to grab and say, this is ours.
We've got to take it back.
And we will take it back, one way or another, whether it be peacefully or whether it not be peacefully, one way or another, we have to take this back.
This is our shot right now before the elections to get this settled.
This is it.
You know, because they're talking.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
They're talking that, you know, around November, if things don't go right, there could be a civil war. We've got enough people that are upset about this, and we're trying to get them on board with this.
Yeah. Well, I just got one question before I have to get back to work. I'm taking a couple minutes out of my day before, you know, so I got to get back before I get in trouble here. But my question is about this tax revolution thing. I just want a little bit more insight on it, because technically, if I fill it out properly, my numbers are going to be really high, like, you know, 8 or 9. But, you know, if my wife gets a job or something like that, the numbers are going to go lower. What numbers, if I fill it out correctly according to how they lay it out in their instructions and everything, what numbers are going to completely get rid of federal withholding, or how much is it going to take away, so on and so forth? So I just want to leave you guys with that question. I'm going to continue listening to the show and everything, but I do got to get off of here. I just wanted to ask that question and get it out in the open, and, you know, maybe listen to your all's response and, you know, see what y'all can say. But I do have to get back to work, and I do greatly apologize. I wish I could stay on longer, but I gotta support the family, you know.
Right. Check out our Facebook page. I'm going to be getting it on there, okay? Facebook page, Global Tax Revolution, and tax is all in caps.
All right, yes, ma'am. I will check it out. And, hey, you ladies watch your 6 out there, all right?
Thank you.
Amen, brother.
Okay.
Man, what a refreshing call.
Woo!
I mean, I'd love to see finally a man
Gave me
standing up
goosebumps.
with us. I know, man. I just love him. I want to hug his neck. God bless you, brother, man. We appreciate you calling in and giving your input. And we know there's a whole lot more out there that are terrified to be vocal or scared to call in and ask those questions. Your questions will all be answered on our Global Tax Revolution page on Facebook. If you don't catch everything you need on this show, feel free to call in anyway and ask those questions, but we definitely will be putting as much information as we can and answering every question that we can on that page. This is a global effort. I want people to understand it's a global effort. We are not alone in this. We have people in other nations that are helping us to get this done. Go ahead, sis.
And they're going to be doing it in their country. This is not just a U.S. Like it says, it's global.
We've got some NSA listening in. They're making all kinds
I hear that.
For us. Yeah, y'all can piss off.
Hey, y'all.
I'm gonna try to thwart their effort to interrupt the show. They blew my board up, and then after that we started having echoes and problems. They need to piss off. You need to piss off, and you need to piss off now. You're traitors, and when the oligarchy gets through using you, they're going to kill you and your family too. Don't think that you're exempt from their destruction, because you're not. And you really need to rethink your position, those of you who are listening in on this call that are not friendly. You need to rethink your position, because you haven't just pissed off a few people, and you're not after a few people. You got a whole globe that's angry. And we are not taking this anymore. We're trying to do this legally. We're trying to do this lawfully. And your interruption or your little pissy attempt to interrupt is not going to be effective. We've already started a movement that you cannot stop. So you can't kill 7 billion people. You can't kill 6 billion people. You can't kill 900 million people. I mean, it's already happening. There's nothing you can do. We're doing it legally and we're doing it lawfully, and we've had enough. Go ahead, Tamara.
We all sit back and we look and we watch. There's a lot of people that are just, they're plain scared, Becky. They're plain scared. They've been indoctrinated into the system that we're under now, and they think that they have to follow and do exactly as they are told. And the thing is, people, quit listening to what you're told, okay? It's kind of like, your mama back in the day asking you, well, all of your friends jumped off the cliff, I suppose you're going to too? Read. The information is out there. All you have to do is read. Google has failed me for the first time at 3 o'clock this morning when I was trying to look up something, and that's the first time. If you put the combination of words in, you can find it. Just keep playing with it until you figure it out. That's how I found. What?
Go ahead.
That's how I found.
Go ahead.
That's how I found that we actually don't owe the taxes. And it's out there. And the government can't refute it. This has been taken to court, people. This has been taken to court. And the government cannot refute the fact that we, as American citizens, do not owe taxes. The Supreme Court can't even come out and say, here's the law. Because there isn't one.
For the answer to the gentleman's question, I want to call him brother because I don't have a name, and he is my brother. He's in this fight with us. God bless you, brother. For the gentleman who called in, if you will take just a brief moment when you have the time to go on the Internet, you're obviously in Texas because I know that area code very well. If you'll go on the Internet and just double-check, because we're not tax attorneys, we don't want to lead you to believe something that may not be factual or anything like that. We always ask people to question everything that we tell you, so much so that you do your own research and find that we're correct. But if you'll go on the Internet, aside from just going on our page, go on the Internet so that you have a peace of mind about what you're doing and look up what you need to file in the state of Texas to accomplish your goal, which is to eliminate federal taxation out of your paycheck. So just go on the Internet, look it up, put it in, put the words in, Google it, and then go into your HR department and with a smile on your face tell them you need to change your dependents and your withholdings and do what you need to do. But any other questions that you might have, this is show number 2. Listen to the first show. And then
I know that you can claim. I know that you can claim 0, which is exempt, or not 0. It has a box on the W-4 for exempt, and that usually says if you're like a full-time student or something like that. Okay, you can check that box and just be done with it, because this is not something. We're not asking you to continue this for the rest of your life. Okay. This is not like the tax revolutions that you've seen in the past where they've said, we don't owe it, so don't pay it, don't ever pay it, don't. Okay, that's not what we're asking you to do. I personally have little problem with paying taxes. The problem that I have is that our taxes are not being used for the things that they should be. Our taxes are being used for things like a billion-dollar grant for Latinos to go to college. Okay?
Or millions of dollars in soldiers to move a bunch of turtles out of the desert.
Well, see, okay, let's get on that real quick. You want to know how messed up the U.S. government is about what they're saying and what they're doing. I mean, you want to talk about a bad belief system. They actually, they went in, the whole thing about Bundy's Ranch down there in Nevada, okay? They told him that the reason that they wanted him off of that property was because his cattle were ruining that property, that public land, quote unquote, ruining it for the desert tortoises that live there. And it was decimating the desert tortoise population by his cows grazing. okay? And that's why they wanted him off of there. That was the excuse they made. But then you turn around, and it wasn't maybe 2 or 3 months ago that story came out about the desert tortoises in California, that they are actually, there's, how many were there, Mary? I think it was 1,500 is what they counted. First off, I want to know who they paid to go count these damn little tortoises. Secondly, you're telling me now they're saying that they're going to spend, I think it was like $5 million is the total they said, that they're going to spend to move 1,500 freaking tortoises that a specialist, a reptile specialist, has already told them will probably not survive the move.
And the Marines are going to do it.
No, the Army.
Oh, the Army.
Was it the Marines? It was Marines or it was one of the military groups.
Well, I thought it was the Marines.
Well, but you know, okay, $5 million.
Either way, what the hell?
$5 million. We've got them down there in South America tearing down the freaking rainforests that provide our oxygen, but we're going to worry about 1,500 damn little turtles running around out in the desert.
Man, they've got a study where they give a grant to find out why lesbians are fat. Are you kidding me? Get the fork away from your mouth. Now pay me. I just completed that. I just handled it for them, you know. Put the damn donut down, fatty.
How about 5 million or 10 million or 15 million? Take a lot more than that to throw it into the foster care system and have proper foster parents, and because some are needed, and give money to families to save the savable families and keep them afloat. Because once you take their kids and they lose their jobs, these aren't taxpayers anymore. They're living off the system. It's destroying our families. It's destroying our country.
Well, it's a big corporate cesspool of shit. That whole CPS foster program. That foster program pays bukus of money to parents that foster the kids. And those people, there are many, probably more than not, there are many people in the foster parenting program who have no business with children in their homes. They're a monetary value to them, nothing more. They're not doing it because they're compassionate and they love children and their heart goes out to them. And many of these kids wind up abused. They wind up sexually abused. They wind up dead.
That's traffic. And you see, and the foster parents that are good, which I know of for a fact, the good foster parents, Children's Services shows up and takes them out of their home too also when they aren't taking them to therapy and loading them up on drugs or forcing them to testify in court in front of their abusers. And these children are already terrified. And if you buff the system, they'll take the kids away from the foster parents, split them up, and put them in horrible places. Just keep it a secret.
Yeah. How many children did we have come up completely disappear from the system, and supposedly nobody knows where they are? Wasn't it thousands last year?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they disappear all the time. Well, they don't report it to the police department. They only have to report it to the police department. A lot of them just let them go, especially if they're like over 15. They just let them run because they don't want to deal with them. But they still collect the money because it's not reported.
Well,
here's one for you.
We have a lot of frivolous spending. Go ahead, sister. Go ahead, Tamara.
Okay. Here in Texas, and it made national and international news, I'm sure, when they raided this LDS compound down here. You remember?
Yeah.
It was based on a anonymous phone call that was never double-checked beforehand, that the woman called and said that she was an underage bride that the marriage had been consummated with. And they took this, the FBI, CPS here in Texas, which I can't stand them either, and I've got my own reasons for that. CPS here in Texas, FBI, state troopers, okay, they all went in there and busted into this LDS compound, took these kids away from their parents. Just horrible situation, okay? but you're not going to do anything about these 22, and we know there's more than that, but the public says 22 jihad training camps where they've got these kids in there that they're training them how to cut off teddy bears' necks at 2 years old.
I know.
They're slicing their children's heads open. They're slicing these children's heads open with knives. And CPS does absolutely nothing. They did this in the streets of freaking New York last year. Took these babies out in the street and cut their heads open with knives and let them bleed all over the street. And not one thing was done. But if you had an American, and I don't care what color, American standing out in the middle of the street cutting their child's head open with a knife and letting them bleed all over the place, you would have been tackled, tased, and probably dead in a jail somewhere, and your kid ended up in CPS care.
Wait a minute, hold up. Are you saying that actual babies were having their heads cut off in the streets of New York City last year?
No.
Cut open.
Cut them with the knife over and over again. Not just once, but over and over again.
It's some sort. Yes, it is some sort of ritual that the Muslims do. That they'll take these babies, and it's on a certain day of the year. It's like a holiday for them, and they take them out in the open streets and start slicing their heads, not off, but they take a knife and slice their scalp so that they bleed everywhere.
And it's so that they will be worthy of worshiping Islam. That is actually part of the ritual of giving them the permission, or yes, it's part of the ritual that they use. The genital mutilation of the girls is to show ownership and forced ownership and forced castration by these Muslim pigs. And by the way, that's happening in America. That forced mutilation of their genitals of the Islamic females is taking place all over the globe, in the UK, France, Greece, wherever Islam is.
Where's Children's Services on that one? If you did that, you'd be in prison.
Well, and I want to explain something real quick. People, they're under this misconception when you say genital mutilation, okay? They're under this misconception that they're having the hood cut off the clitoris or something like that, okay? That's not the case at all, people. That is not the case at all. They cut the entire clitoris off, okay? And then they sew the inner lips together to where there is just a tiny little hole.
So when they do take them, it's horrific.
Well, not only that, these girls from the age that this is, then they bind their legs together for so long that where they've sewed it together down there grows together, okay? So then these girls are going from that day forward, they're having massive urinary tract infections, yeast infections, because when they try to pee, it's not coming out like it should, and it's being held inside because there's only that little hole. And then when they marry them off, and the guy goes to take them, he literally rips them wide open. That is female genital mutilation, y'all.
To assure that first sexual contact is brutal, is barbaric, is an act of rape and torture, and that will be the association to sexual intercourse for that female for the rest of her life. But let me tell you something, from being a victim as a child of rape, the damage is not only physical, it is a mental and emotional imprisonment that is a life, it is a headbutt. I will assure you of that. I can tell you firsthand. So there's a lot of bad things going on. And again, it all goes back to us funding their ability to come into this nation and to continue barbaric behavior. And if you think they're only doing it to their people, you're sadly mistaken. 4 heads of the CARE organization that was called a terrorist organization in 1994, and everybody associated with them that is of the Islamic State in the nation of America was called by the FBI and the Central Intelligence Agency and Interpol as a terrorist organization, and our government, who at the time was Clinton, decided that they should not be prosecuted or shut down. They should be left to grow. There's a reason why that happened. Look at OPEC. Look at who's running things, the banksters and the oligarchy with your tax dollars. So they've let them grow and establish a foothold here.
Sorry for interrupting, but does CARE, does that organization get government funding?
Yes.
Absolutely. They're on a 501c3 program, and they get government funding for all of their umbrella companies. Now, the 4 people that are heading up CARE in Washington, D.C., where their headquarters is, that ought to spin your head, they were caught in child trafficking, rape, and prostitution of American children.
Yep.
In America, across interstate lines, a huge ring of kidnapping your youth, American in particular. They take the white girls. They don't take the black girls. There's a reason for that. You can look it up in the Quran, how they feel about the blacks, for real. But they take the white European girls and they kidnap them, and they're doing it in Europe, they're doing it in Greece, they're doing it in Norway, they're doing it all over the world. They're doing it in Germany. They target the white European, the infidel, and they take our girls and they take them and have their way with them by rape, and they were convicted of this, convicted of it, and they're not sitting in prison. They're still sitting in Washington, D.C., operating CARE, which is a terrorist organization that your tax dollars is funding. These are some of the reasons why we're asking you for a global tax rebellion. We can shut it all down, shut the invasion down, shut the injustice down, shut down the welfare benefits for the foreign invaders that are here. They'll go home if they have nothing here. You understand? Mexico is not a war-torn country. They did not come here fleeing anything. They came to invade your nation. And they came to take
your money.
You and yours. Yes.
Yeah,
your money, everything.
I just wanted to interject. I have an idea. The gentleman that called in asking about about tax forms and whatnot, and you were telling him to check with his tax laws in Texas. Well, once he finds out, it would be a service to people in Texas if he would put it out there what exactly he learned so other people can do it. And anybody in any other state that's listening, if they could check with their state rules, laws, whatnot, and get it up there so people in your state will know what to do.
Sure, put it on the page. That page it's an open to the public page, and any comments are welcome on there. If you want to slam us for doing what we're doing, you're more than welcome to. That's your right as an American citizen to have freedom of speech. But people need to understand too. Now, we're going global with this. Like, I know here in Texas, we do not have an income tax in Texas. And there's a couple of other states that are that way. But we will try. I will try my best to get into all the states and make out a list of the best way or the best number to use to declare that.
We need state coordinators. We need state coordinators.
Yes.
That's a big job. We need state coordinators. I'm going to tell you right now, I need you state coordinators in all 50 states to step up and help us take the reign on organizing this legal effort to stop the madness. I need state coordinators, and I need you to reach out to us on that page, and we'll give you some tasks that need to be completed so that we make sure we're above board. We're not giving anybody any misdirected information concerning their state issues and how to file properly in their own state. And I want to use that right now as that disclaimer. We want you to double-check everything. Double-check everything. We want to keep everybody above board. We don't want to get anybody in trouble. And, again, this is not something we're asking you to do forever. It's something we're asking you to do for a very brief period of time. The impact will take effect in the first 30 days if we have enough people on board doing what they need to do. It will take a huge impact on the government.
Yeah, we're not asking them to go completely Section 861, which, by the way, People, that is the tax code, Section 861, that tells you that you're really not liable for taxes unless you're a government employee. Fourth Port's 10 square miles, folks. But we're not asking you to do that.
Take a look at that. No, but
we're not asking you to. We're not asking you to do that. But I do want you to look at it so that you understand that you have been fooled all these years into thinking that this tax is compulsory. It's not. The IRS admits year after year, time after time, that taxes are voluntary. Even the amount that you decide to claim is voluntary. The tax amount that you say that you owe or are owed back at the bottom of that page is voluntary. It is not a compulsory payment. It is voluntary, and they say so time and time again. Taxes are voluntary. As a matter of fact, a couple of senators.
Go ahead.
A couple of senators have come right out and said, we really don't want to piss off these voluntary taxpayers because then they might find out that they don't really have to pay.
Oh. Everything that is being done unjustly to the people of America and across this globe is being done at the demise of themselves by their own hand by that taxation. Period. They could not have the control. They would not have the monetary funding for the fiat wars to topple governments, to take over regions, to kill innocent people, to orchestrate a false humanitarian crisis in order to excel in an Islamic agenda of the Islamic State and total global domination. They wouldn't have the money to do it. We're giving them the vehicle to do it. Stop the money train. If you stop the money train, they don't eat lobster. They eat bologna just like we do. If you stop the money train, their kids aren't protected from the things that they expose your kids to. They're in the middle of the same shit we're in the middle of. When we stop giving them the power and authority to control everything, right down to our speech, right down to speaking out to a gentleman, a Navy SEAL, this is how bad it is, folks. A Navy SEAL in a mall in Dallas-Fort Worth area was having a private conversation with two people in the mall. There were four gentlemen all together. There was, from my understanding, there was a Navy SEAL and someone with him. And they were having to speak with one another about Christianity and Christ. And this little fat liberal millennial piece of shit, which I would like to slap the taste buds out of his mouth, not only harassed them, right, told them they had to leave the mall for solicitation. He then told them they couldn't talk about God in the mall. Then he said that the Bible stated that you go out and preach the gospel, but you do it very quietly. When the SEAL asked him where the hell that was from. Yeah, exactly. This guy didn't know his head from his ass. He was a little communist millennial piece of shit who is he's a security guard, but it's so bad that we have this Nazi brown shirt little pieces of shit like him crawling into a security uniform dictating what we say in a mall. At the end of the day, he told them to leave. They were trespassing. Then he calls the Dallas Police Department, who then issues tickets to these two gentlemen who were doing nothing wrong. And this guy wanted them to leave, but because this little piece of shit wanted them to leave and dictate what they could and couldn't say in a private environment, in an open space, in a public space, they received tickets for trespassing. That's how bad it is, people. This is what we're up against. You want to stop this madness? Take the money away.
It's an excellent idea, Becky. It's an excellent idea.
Absolutely. You want to stop it? You want to squash the brown shirts? We didn't just wake up and find that our youth are monsters overnight. This didn't happen overnight. They have been conditioned since pre-K and elementary, because as soon as the UN, the communists, and the Islamic agenda bastards, the oligarchy, decided that they couldn't do enough damage in the colleges, they went to the high schools and implemented their program through curriculum. Then that wasn't enough, so they went after our junior high students, and that wasn't enough, and now it's in our elementary schools. In Chicago, you have a school that you're paying for, your tax dollars are paying for this education program, and they're teaching children to masturbate. They're teaching They're teaching gender identity to your young children to scramble their mind, to make them think certain ways about certain things. And your tax dollars are paying for that.
I want to interject something that I heard on the Alex Jones show. This man called in, and he was a woman called in. She was real upset because her daughter had been put on a list to have her gender changed. They had her with counseling, and they didn't tell her parents anything. She just found out that it's on gender reassignment list. Yeah, without the parents' knowledge. That is totally frightening. I think parents need to find out exactly what's going on in the schools, what they're being taught, and get them out of there. I mean, homeschooling, you know, if they're too young and you have to work, what are you going to do? But do what you can to take back the power of your children. They got us by our kids. They got our kids one way or another. We had a congresswoman stand up in the early parts of this administration's reign of terror and state that our children did not belong to us. They belong to the government. That was a very open, public, broad statement. If you'll give me a second, I'll tell you exactly who said that.
Well, real quick, let me tell you something, okay? And I found this today. Did you know that the co-founder of Black Lives Matter is a Muslim?
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yes, and she lives in Cuba. And she's also wanted because she murdered a policeman in cold blood in New York.
Right. Yeah. So, you know, we're not being told anything. We're not being educated. We're not being given the tools to save ourselves. We're having to find them ourselves. And this is one way that we can save it.
Well, there's enough going on that I think people need to realize that something is going to happen that's catastrophic one way or another between the elections and, don't laugh, but Planet X coming in. It is affecting we really do need to supply our home, you know, with everything we need to survive and have a family plan, you know, food, Band-Aids, all of that, because there is something going to happen and people need to accept that and start preparing for it now. I mean,
6 months of 6 months of food, 6 months water, 6 months medicines. You need ammo, you need weapons, and you need to stockpile things to trade with. And I'm talking about something like vodka. Alcohol is going to be a very big bartering asset. You might want to try to stockpile some gasoline or some diesel, depending on what you drive. People, I would get ready. Because if we can't pull this tax revolution off and stop funding this, we're all going to be in trouble.
It's going to take all of us. We've got 90 seconds. I'm going to have to close the show. Tamara, I want to thank you. Mary, I want to thank you for coming on. The gentleman who called in from Lubbock, thank you so much for coming on. Get this show in the hands of your friends and family. Put it on every page. Put it on every post that you can engage people in conversation in. Get this word out. It's going to take a collective effort. This is Becky Williams.
Thank you, ma'am.
Rage Against the Regime. We will be back tomorrow with part 3 on the global tax revolution. I need you people to populate this information, nab our posts, get them out there. This is a global effort. God bless America. God bless my host and co-host. This is Becky Williams, the Truth Stinger. Thank you for being here today, and I am out. Go to our page at Global Tax Revolution on Facebook.
God bless.
Amen.
God bless. Great show, ladies.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Oh, good. I'm not sure what to do sometimes.
You do great, Mary. Hey, I'm new at this, too. I just started doing this like a month ago.
Oh, it's always so powerful.
Thank you for listening to Rage Against the Regime Radio. Don't be a stranger. Please like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter at RATR Podcast. And feel free to leave some feedback whenever you listen to us.
You can also email us at rageagainsttheregimepodcast@gmail.com.